This is a very interesting video today. Is there something going on that they're not telling us? And one of my viewers hinted that at me, and this is very interesting because they overheard a conversation of forest workers, and these are the guys that are on site and they hear and they feel what's going on, but it doesn't really reflect in public statements. But we're talking about a catastrophic large earthquake with a tsunami wave of 30 feet, maybe higher, inland in a lake, in Lake Tahoe, guys. And this is very interesting. So I start with what my viewer, thank you, Wayne, for letting me know about this, posted, wrote us. So Wayne said, a friend of mine that lives in California just got back from a ski trip to Lake Tahoe, FaceTimed me telling me about his trip. He said he and his wife were having dinner in a restaurant and were seated close by a few men in what he thought were forestry employed. He goes on to say the place was pretty noisy and he basically overheard them talking about small tremors that were getting more frequent. And then he asked, I know there are fault lines in California, but are there any fault lines near Lake Tahoe? Thank you, Wayne. So I was looking that up. I was looking at the USGS earthquake list, and I'm like, yeah, if we look at back in the last 30 days, there's not much. There's only one earthquake that I could find, but there is something going on at Lake Tahoe that many people are not aware of. And guys, it is shocking and it's scary. I have to say that. But if we look at what Lake Tahoe actually really is and how it was formed and why and what they found right underneath Lake Tahoe, the picture becomes way clearer. Because Lake Tahoe, we hear, oh, luxury boats, expensive homes, beautiful vacation, lake time, water skiing, whatever. But there is a different story. So what if I told you that one of America's most beautiful vacation paradises sits on top of a geological time bomb? That's what it is. Lake Tahoe. Crystal clear water, snow-capped mountains, multi-million-dollar homes, ski resorts, tourists, weddings, summer boats, winter cabins, and a looming catastrophe directly beneath it. Active fault lines, not one, not two, but three, and surrounding fault lines. Not tiny cracks, we have to make that clear. Not harmless fractures, real faults capable of producing a major earthquake. Magnitude 7.1 plus is the prediction, and according to scientific modeling, a potentially 30-foot tsunami inside the lake. So yes, guys, a tsunami in Lake Tahoe. For California, it's like, are you safe anywhere? I mean, I'm sorry, I love California. I've gone to school and university there for a while, so it's kind of sad. So you just can't escape this. San Andreas Fault locked and loaded in the south. Then we have now, oh, you have to watch this video, by the way, guys. The Mendocino triple junction is not triple anymore. It's way worse. Let's talk about the number 5. You have to watch this. The threats are everywhere. Videos are in the end screen, but let's focus on Lake Tahoe and the Sierra Nevada. Let's break it down, because we're not talking about a Hollywood doomsday fantasy movie. This is pure geology. So Lake Tahoe is not just a scenic alpine lake, it's a tectonic basin. It sits right on the boundary where the Earth's crust is literally being pulled apart. And that's never good, because a lot of shizzy can hit the fizzy if that is happening. The region is part of the Basin and Range province. That's a massive area where the land is like stretching, thinning, and fracturing. And that stretching, as you can imagine, is like you have a pizza dough and you stretch it. If you stretch it too much, it breaks. It creates fault lines. And Lake Tahoe itself was formed by faulting. Two major three major fault systems dominate the lake. Three major active fault lines: the West Tahoe Fault, the Incline Village Fault, and the State Line Faults. They run beneath Lake Tahoe, capable of generating magnitude 7+ earthquakes. And we can say that these faults are part of the Walker Lane tectonic region. We've talked about the Walker Lane quite a bit. It's dangerous, and this can trigger these dangerous tsunamis. And the West Tahoe Fault is considered overdue for a major rupture. The West Tahoe Dollar Point Fault, how they call it, is the largest of the three faults. It runs along the west shore from Emerald Bay to Dollar Point. It is considered the highest slip rate fault in the basin. We need to look at these three fault lines underneath Lake Tahoe to understand what a threat this is. So the Tahoe Basin, how it's called, with Lake Tahoe, wasn't scoured out by glaciers or extruded by volcanic eruption like many other lakes or basins. Over the course of 10 million years, we had powerful mountain building processes. Well, look at the Sierra Nevada. These processes have uplifted the Sierra Range from a shallow sea. This is what happened. The Sierra Nevada itself has formed from a long geological process over 100 million years ago, with the subduction of a plate that was called the Farallon plate underneath the North American plate. Subduction zones, never good. It has created this massive granite batholite deep underground, and this ancient mountain range was later then uplifted, tilted westward, and has dramatically been exposed by glacial erosion. And that has shaped these magnificent granite peaks that we see and the valleys that we see today. And there's an ongoing uplift that continues to form its eastern fault block face, how it's called. So the oceanic Farallon plate dove beneath the North American plate, and that has created a process, has melted rock, has created vast amounts of magma that intruded into the continental crust. And then most magma has cooled slowly deep underground, and that has formed the Sierra Nevada's core of granite, a batholith, how it's called. And then roughly 5 million years ago, the uplift and the tilting has started. So the Sierra Nevada, if we want to sum it up, is basically a gigantic block of the Earth's crust, once buried, now exposed by uplift and carved by glaciers. It reveals the granite that was formed from ancient volcanic activity during a prolonged subduction event. That's why we see all the volcanoes along the Pacific Ring of Fire, along all these subduction zones, Kamchatka, west coast of Canada, and the US, right? So Lake Tahoe was formed by faulting. Problem with the three faults that go directly underneath Lake Tahoe. We see geological trenching, and if we look at underwater mapping, it shows evidence of large past earthquakes in the magnitude 7+ range. And we know a magnitude 7+ earthquake does not just shake the dishes. It moves the ground violently, and it can offset the lake floor. It can trigger underwater landslides. And that's where things get dramatic, because these fault lines are right underneath the water. And let's go back to 2008. Researchers have used high resolution sonar mapping, and they have mapped the bottom of Lake Tahoe, and they found massive underwater landslide deposits. And then you wonder, wow, where are these deposits coming from? It's evidence that in the past, parts of the lake floor of Lake Tahoe collapsed during earthquakes. And when that happens in a deep lake, it's a very, very deep lake, water gets displaced. Lake Tahoe is the largest alpine lake in North America by surface area, the second deepest in the US with 1,645 feet. The water quality, it's exceptionally clear and pure with only one outlet, the Truckee River, and numerous tributaries. And it is high up. The elevation sits at 6,225 feet. That's 1,897 meters above sea level. So back in 2008, they found these massive underwater landslide deposits. So when the lake floor collapsed in the past, when that happens in a deep lake, the water gets displaced, and displaced water creates waves. We know that. You can create that in your own bathtub. Just move your legs, right? And Lake Tahoe is especially quite an enclosed basin, like a bathtub. That can mean a lake tsunami. Technically, they call it a seishi. And models suggest that if a large section of the lake floor failed during a major earthquake, waves could reach up to 30 feet in height in some shoreline areas. 30 feet, 10 meters. That's 3 stories of water rushing towards the land. Marinas are gone. Lakeside homes will be destroyed. Boats will be thrown onto shore. Roads will be flooded and destroyed. And because it's a lake, there is no warning buoy system like we have in the Pacific Ocean. There's no warning. You don't realize that a lake floor is collapsing, right? The shaking would be the warning. So if you're at Lake Tahoe and you feel it shaking, run to higher ground. Because here's what most people don't realize. Lake Tahoe is surrounded by steep underwater slopes. Some drop thousands of feet, and the lake is over 1,654 feet deep. That steepness around it makes it more vulnerable to underwater slope failures. So you have the active faults, evidence of past major quakes, steep, unstable lake floor, and the problem, the dense shoreline development. That combination is what keeps scientists paying attention, right? It's dangerous. So does that mean a tsunami is guaranteed tomorrow? No, it doesn't, right? But the recurrence interval for major earthquakes on the West Tahoe Fault especially is estimated in the range of a few thousand years. And the last major rupture is believed to have occurred roughly 4,500 years ago, roughly, right? We can't date it precisely and can say now within the next few years it's going to happen. It can happen tomorrow. That's the problem. So geologically speaking, if we're talking about 4,500 years ago, that's not yesterday. And that's the key point. Most people think of earthquake risk in California along the San Andreas Fault, right? So if you're living in San Francisco and you're going on vacation at Lake Tahoe, you think, at least we're safe for a few days. So, well, you might not be. Lake Tahoe really rarely enters the conversation. Has it entered your conversation? And the thing is, if what my viewer's friend has overheard, the forest workers, if they notice there is an increase, we should look at this. Someone should look at this. I haven't found any evidence that anyone is looking into this. Because inland fault systems can be just as dangerous, especially locally, and especially if you add the enclosed water amplification effect, as dangerous as something that is like the San Andreas Fault, right? I mean, if we're talking about a 30-foot ocean tsunami, it spreads energy across miles of coastline. A 30-foot lake tsunami, on the other side, hits a confined shoreline fast, very fast. So imagine this scenario, guys. We really have to imagine this. It's summer, lake is packed, boats everywhere, restaurants full, weddings happening on the shore, campgrounds. The ground starts shaking violently, power goes out, rocks are falling from the slopes, landslides, mountain collapses. People panic, they will. And then within minutes, maybe even less than minutes, the water pulls back unnaturally and then it surges, guys. That's the risk that scientists have modeled. It really is like Doomsday scenario for Lake Tahoe. But it's not fantasy, it's physics, it's real. That is a real risk and it has happened in the past. So the question arises, why isn't this talked about more? Well, because it's rare, but also the magnitude 9+ Cascadia subduction zone earthquake is somewhat rare. Not as rare as Lake Tahoe, every like something between 300 and 500 years. But still, it seems it doesn't fit into the daily news cycle because it's somewhat probabilistic, we could say. But rare does not mean impossible. It's rare until it actually happens and then nobody is prepared. Lake Tahoe's beauty exists because of faulting. This is a fact. The same forces that created it still exist. That force that has created that deep lake and the tension that is beneath the lake still exists. It's still there. It's still active. It's quiet so that you don't hear about it, but it's building up the pressure. It's just waiting. So if you live near Lake Tahoe or just vacationing there, the most important thing to remember is this, guys. If you feel strong shaking, move to higher ground immediately. If the Cascadia subduction zone ruptures, you have something between 8 to 15 minutes if you're on the shoreline of Canada, Vancouver Island, Oregon, Washington, Northern California. But that is offshore. In Lake Tahoe, it's right there. So move to higher ground immediately. Do not wait. Do not turn around. Don't film it. Don't try to save your boat or anything. And this is so sad. That's what scientists say, or anyone. You don't have time. The shaking is your warning. And because in Tahoe, the danger comes from beneath your feet and then from the water. It makes it very unsettling. It does, but it is the truth. It's beautiful on the surface, but it's unpredictable underneath. It is a ticking time bomb. That's Lake Tahoe described, guys. I hate to tell you the bad news. And if you want to know what else is going on in California, because the whole west coast of Canada and the US might be wiped out together because fault lines trigger each other. That's the bad part. Guys, check out the videos in the end screen and stay safe, be prepared as always. Thank you so much for watching. If you could like and hype this video, share it with your friends, doesn't cost you anything. It helps my channel, and if you want to spend something, buy me a coffee. A link is in the description to my buymeacoffee.com/silky site. Thank you for everyone who's doing this and supporting the channel, and especially a shout out to all my channel members. You guys are awesome. I so enjoy the conversations with you and sharing my private stuff. I have prepared a new one. I've done something. I'll tell you very, very soon. So thank you guys. See you soon. Click here. I almost forgot that. Bye-bye.